SMCI is in a big spot here as we close at 45.37. Buyers and sellers battling it out between that 47.85 and 44.23 range. We see some consolidation here after very bad earnings, gapping us downwards. Just see sellers getting control. We see a little bit of back and forth. Bad earnings come in and plummet us way back down, right where we just got that big momentum out. We broke that descending resistance that we were stuck in for a long time. Built up some very nice momentum, really in a nice, healthy ascending profile. But those earnings really crush us back down to the floor. But good thing to see here is that all of last week, we just kind of battled out between those ranges. We didn't let price continue to fall and sellers continue to stem off that gap down momentum. So nice to see that 44.23 support has held up pretty nicely here. We're going to dive in deeper today, guys, to see if we should be getting a bounce here or if sellers are going to continue to push price down. Kicking things off on the weekly time frame, this is the longer term resistance that we were talking about stemming from that 122.90. So we got a very nice move up. Buyers in that ultimate control, extremely strong move to the upside. After kind of breaking this pennant-like range here, price wasn't doing too much in the past, kind of stagnant. We got that volume starting to come in here. Very nice movement to the upside. And that's what creates this long-term resistance. And now for a while, this resistance really was a big problem for the buyers. Stemming from that 122, come down here and really reject hard off that. Come down to the floor of 17.25. And then we try to trend our way back up, finding an ascending profile. Try to get above that resistance, get shot back down again. And then off that breakout, guys, we try to hit that point again. Reject. And then we kind of just bleed out. We also see a very volatile movement to the upside, but we do bleed out. Once we're fully out of that range, we do see some nice buyer momentum really picking up in a very nice ascending healthy profile here, guys. Looking very strong, but then those bad earnings come in, plummeting stock downwards to that 44.23 support. From a TA perspective, we had a very nice ascending profile on the weekly, and then the bad earnings kind of ruined the technicals, but we do hold up at that support level. All right, guys, so on the daily, we see that gap down was roughly around 15% and a little bit of continuation there. Hitting that level of 44.23. That's right where we got that nice green wide bar breaking us out. So we did break out of this resistance range, holding a bit tighter here. Every time we hit off that resistance, we got a big movement to the downside. And we were just overall very volatile. The stock couldn't really hold at that spot. So the more recent attempt out, we see that price really does get tighter. We don't see a ton of volatility after hitting that point. Kind of reject here. And then slight volatility on the movement down, but nothing like we saw in the past, guys. And we continue to trend back upwards, and we kind of just bleed out of that range. No extreme aggressive move to the upside after we get out of that range there until we fully have to get over that $44 level, that being a more prominent resistance zone. And buyer step in with very nice buyer momentum, showing a shift in momentum. For those of you unaware, when you see a very solid candle like this, that shows that the buyers were in ultimate control. On the inverse, you see a very solid red candle. These sellers were in ultimate control. So we see how long that bar is and how strong it is. So that leads us to a higher up consolidation zone. And we kind of see a stair-step like pattern start to form here. So we're getting these movements up and we're getting some chop. So movement up, chop. That's moving up, chop. Sellers try to make their move to the downside, but we do get enough movement up again, hitting that ceiling of that 62.36. But then you start to see sellers step in. So a little bit of back and forth here. We are volatile after finding that rejection point. Where from a TA perspective, you'd expect a bit of chop and a possible retest of that point, but the bad earnings really plummet us to the downside. A little bit of continuation, but nothing too major. And then you see that point of 44.23 really hold up quite nicely. That was the past resistance, right, that we broke through on that nice green wide bar. So nice to see that is remaining as nice support. And if we look closer, guys, the more recent couple days, lots of buying pressure at that range. So sellers try to make their move downwards. You see a bit of buying pressure there. Once again, sellers try to make their move downwards. Lots of buying pressure, guys. When you see a long lower wick, that means a lot of buying pressure. Right, the sellers try to make their move downwards, but the buyers buy it back up and close in favor of the buyers that day. On the inverse, you see a long top wick here. That means a lot of selling pressure. So we did see that gap down. Buyers tried to make their move back up above that $47 level. That's where you see a bit of hesitation, and the sellers do step in, bringing us down to the floor. But now we see a lot of buying pressure, with the sellers continuing to try to make their move downwards, but the buyers are really holding up at the zone. So as long as the buyers can really hold that support level nicely as they already are, we could be getting a retest of that 47 in a healthier manner, a healthier ascending profile, kind of working our way up there. And then looking for that breakthrough, getting back within this general chop around that $46 level to that $50 psychological level, which would be very important, guys, leading us to the upside of where we're getting another sort of chop range of 50 and 54. And then we'd be in that kind of territory where saw a lot of volatility in that movement to 62.36. And we see in the past, guys, that point that we did get rejected by, right, it was fundamentals. It wasn't a technical kind of standpoint. It was just bad earnings that ripped us down. But That point in general isn't a lot of chop going on there, right? That 62 and 54, very much an exit pathway, either going up or down. You don't see a lot of delayed price action within that zone as we've seen on the movement down. Try to get back up. Sellers push us down further, and we kind of find a range downwards. Once again, try to break that range, and we get pushed back down. And same thing happens here, right? A lot of fundamentals that go into that, but we do see a lot of volatility pick up here, and then a continued movement to the downside. So if buyers can start to pick up that momentum, guys, overall, SMCI is a healthy stock, and it's a strong stock. So I think that the likely case scenario is that we do find some buyer momentum on our side, do trend to that $47 level, break that, and start to fill this gap down, as this is a very wide gap, and there's a lot of room to fill. So the upside is looking better in the short term. Nice to see that we can hold that support. If we cannot hold that support and sellers keep on testing and do find that movement to the downside, watch that $40 psychological level to hold up, as that was a strong support there. Wouldn't be a great sign for the buyers if the sellers do get their movement downwards. I think we do hold up here, as we're getting some pretty obvious price action that the buyers don't want to give up this zone. So I think that we do trend back to this 47. You want to see volume start to come in here, as we are in a declining range on volume. So as long as volume can really come in here, the buyers can start to fill this gap, as that was a very big move to the downside. I think that we could be seeing some short-term nice price action for the buyers. Keep in mind, guys, as long as bad news and fundamentals aren't on point with SMCI, could be seeing some movements like this happen. But as long as good news starts flushing in with SMCI, their targets start getting hit on earnings, that won't be as much of a thing to worry about. So right now, from a technical analysis standpoint, I do think that we get the bounce here and retest that $47 level. Try to get back within this chop zone of 50 and 47. Short-term price target, I think we do have that 46 to 47 range. And then ultimately retesting that $50 psychological level. All right, guys, on the hourly, we see that huge gap down that we were analyzing. And then once we got to that position, we didn't let the play move on much further. So we do see a lot of back and forth, and that $44 level really hold up as good support. See a lot of condensing. So we get some pretty volatile chop, as it's a very big gap down. Volatility is definitely in play. And then you kind of see price just kind of shrivel up, getting tighter, tighter, and tighter. And then we see an obvious decline in volume, guys. We're seeing pretty constant, stagnant movement on the volume. So if we could really get a big push here, guys, I think the buyers look good for that retest of 47, and we could be seeing a short squeeze like effect to the upside, really breaking through that aggressively. And if the buyers have enough buying pressure, we could definitely squeeze out of this range here. It is nice to see that the support held up and the move didn't continue to the downside after that very big gap down. We do remain short-term bullish here. I think we do get that movement above 47 slash that 46.50-ish range. Yeah, guys, stay patient with this one. Definitely wasn't a good gap down, and hopefully fundamentals start getting on point with SMCI. From a TA perspective, we have a lot more room to the upside than the downside at this point. After breaking that range, SMCI really became a very, very strong stock here. I think it does have some good ability to bounce back, so definitely looking to the upside here. In the grand scheme of things, guys, this is a smaller pullback, especially if we recover here. Much smaller pullback within this overall ascending range. So if we could get that correction, start to fill this gap, I think we do look pretty good here. So that's all I got for you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below your price predictions for SMCI, both in the short and long term. And I'll do it, guys. As always, trade smart. I will see you all in the next one.